Am I the asshole for thinking I didn't do anything wrong? Wedding Bridesmaid Edition. I, 21 female, was asked to be a bridesmaid in my good friend's 21 female wedding in Florida. She lives there, but I live in the Midwest, so I had to fly down for the wedding. Between my flights, dress, gifts, and everything else, I spent over $1,000 to be there. Her cousin, 20 female, who is also one of my best friends, was another bridesmaid, and the three of us have been close since we were kids. The week before the wedding was mostly fun, but I started getting homesick. I was sleeping on couches. We were mostly eating gas station food, and I just really missed home. Her cousin was also homesick, so I wasn't the only one feeling that way. I coped by calling my mom and grandma, but I still made it my priority to be there for the bride and make sure she had a great week. The bachelorette party didn't go very well. The bride was already upset and even hid in the bathroom crying at one point before her sister convinced her to come back out and try to enjoy the night. Later, one of the bridesmaids drank almost all of the liquor before the bride could even get drunk herself and eventually had to Uber home because she was so intoxicated. The night that was supposed to be about celebrating the bride ended up revolving around someone else. The next day was rehearsal, and two bridesmaids didn't even show up despite knowing about it for months and being reminded the day before and that morning. They also showed up late to the rehearsal dinner, refused to sit with the wedding party, and instead sat on their phones. When the bride invited them to come hang out with us, they told her no, they can come to us. A few minutes later, they walked up to the bride and said, we're bored, we're going to leave, and left. It absolutely crushed her. The rest of us spent the evening making bouquets and doing everything we could to lift her spirits. Thankfully, it worked. She even chose to carry the bouquet I made down the aisle, which meant so much to me. On the wedding day, the bride was incredibly stressed. She was snapping at people who were genuinely trying to help her, which wasn't like her at all. I figured it was wedding stress and didn't take it personally. The ceremony was beautiful, and I cried watching one of my childhood best friends get married. The reception was a lot of fun, and I stayed sober because I wanted to remember the night and be available if she needed anything. After the reception, we went back to change before heading to the after party. I went to grab the only shirt I had packed to change into, which also happened to be my boyfriend's shirt. The bride had taken it from my things and put it on after the reception. She was crying so hard that it ended up covered in tears, makeup, snot, and drool. I wasn't about to say anything to her in that moment, so I just threw on my hoodie and pajama pants instead. When we got back to the apartment, the bride looked exhausted. Her husband asked if she wanted to shower, and I offered to start it for her. She then decided she wanted to go say goodbye to her grandparents while she was sober and invited me to come. I told her I thought it should just be her husband, and her grandparents because it felt like a private family moment. I stayed behind with everyone who was still drunk. I finally got to sleep around 6 a.m. in the closet of the spare room because it was the only quiet place in the apartment. Months before the wedding, the bride begged me to stay a couple extra days afterwards. I told her I didn't think it was a good idea because I thought she and her husband should have that time together as newlyweds, but she insisted she wanted me there. The day after the wedding, she and her husband left to go back to the venue, leaving me alone at the apartment. While they were gone, I called my mom and grandma to tell them about the wedding and admitted that I was really homesick and couldn't wait to go home. The bride has pet cameras in the apartment, and I think she may have overheard my conversation. A little later, she texted me saying they would be gone longer than expected and that we probably wouldn't really be hanging out the rest of my trip because she wanted to spend time with her husband. That was exactly what I had expected from the beginning, which is why I originally didn't want to stay the extra days. Since I was already homesick and now knew we wouldn't really spend any more time together, I changed my flight to go home early. I told her and she said she understood. Before I left, I woke her up because I knew she would be upset if I left without saying goodbye. I hugged her, told her I loved her, that I was proud of her, and that I would see her soon. Once I got to the airport, I texted her cousin and her aunt because they have both been checking on me. I let them know I was headed home and filled them in on what happened after the wedding since they weren't there. Almost immediately after I sent those messages, the bride started sending me long paragraphs saying she was disappointed in me, that I had been talking badly about her all week, and that I was a bad friend. The problem is, I genuinely don't think that's true. I never called her names, mocked her, or spread rumors. I privately vented to my mom and grandma that I was homesick and talked about things that had objectively happened during the week, including how the other two bridesmaids treated her. Everything I said was true, and everything I said I would have been willing to say to her face if there had been an appropriate time. I wasn't going to criticize a stressed bride during her wedding week because that week wasn't about me. It was about supporting her. What hurts the most is that the two bridesmaids who skipped rehearsal, ignored her, and openly disrespected her all week weren't the ones she directed her anger toward. Instead, she chose me, someone who spent over $1,000 to be there, stayed sober to help if needed, made bouquets with her, extended my trip because she asked me to, and did everything I could to support her. Her cousin and I were constantly checking in with each other throughout the week, asking if we were doing enough and making sure we were supporting the bride the best we could. We both genuinely cared about making her wedding special. Everyone around me keeps telling me emotions were high and to give it time, but this friendship meant the world to me. I feel blindsided and heartbroken because I truly don't believe I did anything wrong. Am I the asshole?